Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our breakout session on building and optimizing your tech stack today. I think most people have joined at this point. So my name is Ryan Seams. I'm a senior sales manager at Mixpanel. I also have Kat on the line as well. He's one of our support engineers. And today we're going to lead you through a session on building and optimizing your tech stack. Before we kick things off, just a couple of housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and will be sent to you by email in the next 24 hours. So if you are taking notes or following along, you'll have a recording to reference later. And there'll also be recordings to all the other breakout sessions. So if you want to watch one of the other sessions that you weren't able to attend, you'll get those recordings as well. As you may notice, this is a normal Zoom meeting, so you have the option to be on camera or not. We will keep you on mute as we go along through this presentation, but if you have questions as we go along, feel free to add those in the chat. And if you are having any technical difficulties, you need some support from our team to make sure that you can hear us, see us, chat us, please let us know. With that, let's jump into the session here. So again, today's session is on building and optimizing your tech stack. We talked a lot in the last session with Jazz around how to actually set up the types of metrics you want to collect. What we didn't talk about is all the tools that might be involved with collecting all the pieces for all those different metrics and making them visible in one place. And so what we'll be talking about today is this diagram here, which we refer to as the best in breed tech stack. And so if you haven't seen a diagram like this before, this may seem a little bit intimidating, the number of different logos and tools that are on the screen. But our goal today is to talk through some of these different types of tools that are out there in the market, how they actually play nicely with one another in terms of integrations between the different tools, and how you, within your own company or team, can set up the different tools that you see here to drive success across your product. So breaking down those tools a little further and grouping them together by some high-level themes so we can have a more fruitful discussion, we really see these falling into three key areas. And you can, this is obviously not drawn as a pyramid, but you can think of this as a pyramid. You need to do the bottom to build on the other things that you see on the top. And what we mean by that is, first, we need to collect the data. So we need to decide how are we going to collect the data that we need for our product. Next, once we've collected that data, this is where we actually analyze that data. So whether that's in a self-serve tool like Mixpanel, or if it's in a traditional data warehouse with someone running SQL, we need a way that we can go analyze the data that we've collected. Lastly, once we have that data, we actually want to go take action. So if we find a particular insight about our product or our users, we need a way to go act on that and see if we can actually improve the product or the user experience based on the data that we've analyzed. So this is a high-level view of how those tools fit in. On the next couple of slides, we'll dig into each of these key three areas to give you an idea of where the different tools sit. So first, we'll start with data collection. The important thing to note here is we're particularly talking in this case about event data, which you might also hear referred to as user behavioral data. And so when we talk about an event, this is different than your traditional BI type data where it could be any type of data. Event data really refers to an action that a user is taking on your product. So whether that's your website, your app, etc., it's all the actions the user is taking. And so when we look at ways that we could collect that type of data, the first way that you might do this, and this happens very often when you're first getting started, is using an SDK that's specific to the tool that you're using. And so tools like Mixpanel, AppsFlyer, for example, on this screen, Segment, all of these different tools have their own SDKs that allow you to integrate directly with an individual tool and start sending that behavioral data. As you evolve, as you get closer to this view of having all these different tools within your tech stack and data going one place to the next, you might actually consider a customer data platform or a CDP. And so these tools are purpose-built for collecting data across all the different sources that we saw in that diagram, and then connecting it across those different tools. And so if you actually implement a tool like Segment, like mParticle, they'll actually collect all of your data through one SDK, and they'd be able to then send that out to Mixpanel, to an attribution tool, to a marketing tool, and make that very easy without requiring developer resources. And then lastly, this is something you can always do is build in-house. So if you have a data engineering team, you have resources, you can certainly build infrastructure to collect event data in-house and put it into one of the cloud providers that you see here, like a Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, etc. So those are kind of the different ways that you can collect this type of data. The one key thing to note here is it's important to be intentional about what you want to collect and plan out that approach. And so in the introductory session, Jazz talked a little bit about building out your metrics framework, thinking about the data that you want to collect. We would certainly advise building out a framework for the data that you want to track, and then figure out how that fits into the different ways that you can collect that data. So once we have the data, this is where we move to analysis. And so in a traditional setup, you'd have some of these BI type tools that we see on the right, like Looker and Tableau, as the source of business metrics for a company. And so in most cases, we see that customers still have these types of BI data warehouses. And that's where you're going to put your company KPIs. That's where you're going to figure out across all your different data sources that are stored in your data warehouse, some of those key metrics about your company. Where those tools fall short and where something like Mixpanel actually comes in is that if you're in a traditional BI tool and you want to do a complex analysis about your individual users, SQL becomes very hard. It becomes very cumbersome to maintain certain types of queries within SQL. And so a tool like Mixpanel enables anyone on the team to quickly analyze that user behavioral event data that we talked about without knowing SQL. And in particular, product analytics tools are purpose-built for some of these use cases like funnels, right? How do people convert through some specific journey on my product? When we talk about journeys or flows, what if I don't know what the funnel is? If I don't know the 5 steps of my key product funnel, maybe I just need to look at what are the common flows or common paths people are taking to better understand how people progress through our product and what their journey looks like. And then lastly, like retention or LTV. Over time, do users continue to come back? What drives them to come back? How much are they worth to me over that long period of time? And so any of these queries where we're looking at individual users over a period of time, the sequencing of these events that they're doing, a product analytics tool like Mixpanel is going to be much easier for your team to unlock those use cases and find out what your users are doing than a traditional tool like a BI tool. And typically we'd see them used in conjunction because they both have their advantages in certain types of queries. Once we've analyzed all that data, well, we've collected, we've analyzed it, this is where we take action. And so we can think of this as a way that once we've figured out something that's going well in our product and we want to scale it to the rest of the users, or we find something that's going poorly and we need to try something new, these are the tools that are going to help you actually take action and see if it has any impact on the user experience. And so the first category of tools here are your messaging automation tools. So engaging your users at different points throughout the customer lifecycle through a number of different channels like a push notification, an email, an SMS, etc. The next category of tools are experimentation tools. So maybe you have a hypothesis that your onboarding funnel is broken and there's too many form fields for users to fill out. These tools allow you to run an A/B test, right? And see, hey, if we remove some of the forms from our onboarding, do people convert more quickly? Or do they convert more slowly? Test that hypothesis and move on and implement product changes for those that are successful tests. And the last category you'll see here is guides. So tools like Chameleon or AppQues, These are onboarding tools that allow you to walk your user through how to actually utilize your platform and teach them some of the key flows within your product that will actually increase their conversion and retention. Subdividing some of these tools a little bit further, just so you have an idea of where we see some of these. We've talked about each of these in a little bit of detail on the other slides, but I will just quickly walk through them again now. First, we have our marketing automation and personal cross-channel personalization tools. These are your tools that are allow you to reach your customers throughout the customer lifecycle through a number of different channels. Next are your marketing attribution tools. So tools like AppsFlyer, Adjust, Branch. These allow you to see how somebody actually clicks through a link or an advertisement to utilizing your app and understand how your marketing efforts are tied to your app's usage. The next, experimentation, user experience. We talked about experimenting. We talked about onboarding guides. These are ways that you can test your hypotheses and help users understand how to use your product. The next set of tools in the bottom left is the CDP. So these are your customer data platforms, collect all the data in one place, send it to all the different destinations that you want. We talked a little bit about your BI tools and your infrastructure. So these are your different cloud storage tools, the way that you can have your data from all your different sources, not just, for instance, your product data, but maybe your operational data, your customer data, a number of different data sources that might not be related to the product, but have them all in one place in cloud storage. And then one that we didn't talk about specifically, but is important to a number of businesses, is how does things like my sales data, my customer support data, my customer success data help influence what the experience looks like for folks on your product. So putting this all together, you can utilize these tools in conjunction to really think about how you can uplift your ACER metrics. So how do I acquire users, convert them, engage them throughout the journey, and then retain them over time. And you can see how each of these tools has a role in that process, whether it's acquisition for those marketing attribution tools, conversion for a number of those experimentation and walkthrough tools, and then engagement and retention for your messaging tools. And then of course, underlying this, you have the infrastructure, whether that's a CDP, the specific SDK for those tools, or something custom built on top of a cloud storage provider. So that's a little bit, again, about how to build the modern tech stack. Hopefully that makes this picture that we looked at earlier a little bit less intimidating. Keep in mind, you can think about how you want to collect the data. Once you've collected it, think about how you want to analyze it. And then lastly, how you want to take action on that once you have the data. So that concludes this specific breakout session. Thanks so much, everybody here, for joining. As a reminder, we'll be sending the recordings out, and you'll get the recording for the other sessions as well that may be of interest. So hopefully you found this helpful. Appreciate the time. Talk soon. Thanks, everybody.